I built this Polycrub thing. It's like a polytunnel but made out of hard polycarbonate, so it's much stronger. So I ended up with a kit but no instructions, so I've messed up a few things, but hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and I'll show you some other stuff that just makes the job easier. So the first thing is these pipes. They sit on wooden posts that go into the ground. They're concreted into the ground. You've got to get these absolutely spot on. So you do your two end ones, do a line, and then do the middle ones. Inside the pipes there are some blocks. So the first block sits on these posts in here. So once you've got your posts all concreted in, you cut them off so they're perfectly level on both sides, and then that makes everything level. Further up, these bits of wood, they screw into the pipe. Inside the pipe there are blocks to screw into. They should all be the same, but they're not quite. Some of the blocks are up and down by a centimetre, so you actually just want to make this level, rather than, you know, where the kit comes with these X's here to mark where the blocks are, but they're not fully accurate. This weird setup at the end is my fault. These long bits of timber were 4.8 and the polytunnel's 5.2 something. So yeah, I should have cut these here and put this protruding there, but I didn't. So yeah, don't worry about doing that. Make sure these are just a bit longer than the total length of your sheets, plus these H-section bits, so there's like a centimetre gap here. So you put your sheet on, then you put this thing on, which is a real pain. It's easy to get the first bit on, but sliding the next sheet in is really difficult. So you make these kind of jig things here, get one end on, clamp this so this can't come back this way while you're wiggling around with the other bits up there. This has been one of the most difficult bits, joining the two sheets together using these H-section things. So the way we did it was, you slide one onto the last sheet you did, that's really easy. And then you're trying to do this side. So you slide your sheet in until it's below the first lip, there, all the way along. You might need to get a butter knife like this, so you can get a butter knife between them and there is a little bit of flex. And also using any offcuts of this, but I guess you could use anything really, plastic bottles, whatever, little bits of them, and you get them in between here, and then that helps this bit slide over the top of that under this lip. You're going to need to do at least one of these sections. I was doing about 1.5 of these sections to join them together, but yeah, anything like that makes it way easier. Yeah, so once you've got your sheet in all the way around under the first lip, then you come inside and you do exactly the same thing to get it into the second lip, and that's where these are really handy, and the butter knives. Okay, when you're positioning the sheets, you want to clamp the ends on here. Did try making a template and marking where all the holes are, but even that wasn't fully accurate. So actually now just putting a sheet on, clamping it down on both sides, and then drawing on it a line for where these go. That way they're more accurate. Some of them, I don't know if you can see, well yeah, this one's ended up closer to the bottom and this one's a bit closer to the top. The sheets are fastened onto the timber work with these button fasteners, you know, with a screw through here. Right, but you have to pre-hole the sheets, and you can't do them the same size as this because of expansion. The sheets, you know, it's a 7 metre long sheet, will expand and contract, so you need to make the holes bigger by like 3 mil. The sheets are really difficult to drill through cleanly. A wood drill bit just destroys them. The metal bit will go through, but actually the easiest thing I found is these step bits. You know, because you need a big hole, and they work great. Although the way they work, they tend to drift off slightly from the line, but you can control it. I'm cutting these to length, so you could use some kind of power tool, but they might melt it. You can just get through it with a sharp handsaw. It's a bit fiddly, but that's all I've been doing. This is twin wall, it's like a centimetre thick or something. There, that's cut with a handsaw. It's pretty clean, but there are these little bits, so you just want to sand it off. I'm using a 120 grit, but you could use it a bit coarser. The big sheets of polycarbonate are joined together with these H-section things. These are really difficult to cut with a normal saw, but I found just a hacksaw and it cuts through them really cleanly. When you're putting these joiners onto here, I found it's easier if, when you screw the last sheet on, screw it on tight here, leave the last row so there's a little bit of flex. Otherwise it's difficult to get that behind this when the wood's tight. I realised I'd have to cut curves into this polycarbonate for the end of the tunnel, so I just tried a jigsaw and it's really easy. Nice clean cuts. I wish I'd even done the straight cuts with this, much better. When I put this 2x3 in here, it was a bit bent. Didn't really worry about it too much, but then I realised when I'm putting the shiplap board up to it, it wouldn't quite fit. So I had to spend ages with a jigsaw just trimming it to fit it in. Yeah, and it looks a mess, to be honest. So if I was doing it again, I'd definitely get a straight one of these. I've nearly finished. I'm just doing the end bits. What to show you. Yeah, this is all pretty straightforward. The slagging goes around here. Here's a bit of a detail. So I'm using this thinner wood for this, for the doors and the windows, which means you can't use these fittings, so I'm just using washers and screws here. These catches don't quite fit here with this behind, so I've had to put some extra washers behind that just to bring this out from the surface a bit, and then this will slide across there. So that's it, it's basically finished. I need to put a bit of timber up there. But yeah, I've done it, and the rain's arrived, but it means I can work in here now. I can sort out the floor and build some benches and stuff. Anyway, I hope that's helped someone. I've adapted the design a bit. So this end I've used a lot more timber. It was north facing, so there wasn't much light anyway, and I want to put in like a potting bench and stuff at this end, so I wanted a solid wooden boards. Yeah, overall it's been a lot more forgiving than I thought. We've adapted the size of it as well. If you buy a proper Polycrub kit, you should get instructions, but it is adaptable. So this one we built on a slope. I mean, the polytunnel's level, but the ground was sloping. I wish I could have used flat ground, but that wasn't an option. So yeah, it is quite forgiving.